365 Days of Horsemanship, day 109. Pretty good day again today. I had 2 jobs to do when I came up. One was to move Lawrence and 2 other horses into a different field. And the other one was to hose Mia. I didn't really have a lot of time, so I really wanted to get these things done, but I also was really had this core feeling that I didn't want to make any compromises to get them done. And so I started with Lawrence, and what I did was I just brought down a small bale of hay, walked it down to the field I wanted them in. Luckily, it's an adjoining field to the one they were already in with some other horses, and I think they're quite used to, those 3 horses are quite used to being fed hard feed, whereas the other horses aren't. And I think a mixture of that and also me coming down with the wheelbarrow and the whole pattern just made it so that I didn't really even need to call them, but those 3 horses specifically came down and I was able to open the gate and let them in, which is super lucky. And I think also a product of, a good setup and a well-established pattern. So the 3 horses are in their new field. I'm thinking, this hasn't taken very long. This is good. And they're all eating the hay at these piles. And I think to myself, do you know what? Maybe this is a good day to practice this haltering and eating thing that I had wanted to practice the previous day, but the other horses in the herd had been pushing Lawrence quite a lot off of the hay, and that had been challenging to have all that movement around, and I felt that I had maybe got my timing wrong or made his life more difficult. But I thought, today is a good day. There's only these 2 other horses in here. He's really friendly with them. There's not really any bad energy here, and there's nothing else for him to be doing other than eating at this time, so I could just put the halter on and he can go back to what he's doing. And so I went to try to put the halter on, and I said to myself, if he doesn't want to, then I won't push it. I'll just play with the haltering idea and be in flow. But actually, so I put the halter over his neck. So I untied the rope and I put my hand over his neck and I took the long piece from the other side of his neck and just went to sort of like with a feel. It's not like a yield because I'm not really pulling him, but just like his head to come around towards me. And there was this little moment I saw him just go and just like that little bit away. And so I just released the line and just waited a couple minutes, and then I just felt this like tiny like millimeter just switch of his like head and his neck and his ears. So I tried again and I put the line underneath his neck. And he softly yielded right round to me. And I was able to put the halter on, really nice soft haltering. I was thinking, wow, this is great. And then we just stood there. And I immediately wanted to take him to the hay pile. And so I tried to walk with him, but he didn't want to go. He just wanted to stand there, like still. And I was sort of like, oh, okay, like what's this? And I thought, okay, maybe he just wants to rest. I didn't want to push him. And so we rested, and it was a good rest, but it didn't feel completely relaxed. And we were literally just standing there still. I was sort of watching things, but I felt like he was quite frozen, like he was quite shut down. Not very, very, because he was still looking around and changing focus, but he wasn't. There was this, I think, little bit of concern still in there where he was like waiting for me to ask him to do something uncomfortable. And so I just waited and waited. And after some time, I thought, I'm running out of time here. I would really like to hose Mia as well if I can. Maybe I'll push a little bit harder and see if I can get him to the hay, and then see if he'll eat. So I did. And basically, I just put some pressure on the line and the halter forwards and then some like rhythmic pressure towards his hind end to push him from behind. Like very small amounts of pressure, but enough to be effective. And he did eventually agree to come. Definitely, I would say that was like light, I would say insistent leadership. It was like, come on, you're coming. And yeah, I came over to the hay, and again, it was like, I offered him even some, and he initially was like, and still like very frozen, even with his head right by the hay. He sort of finally started slowly eating when the other horses came over and was quite close to him. And I think in another circumstance, he'd have chosen to move already, but I was there and I hadn't moved, and I didn't really want to move because I thought that probably he wouldn't want to come with me and I didn't want to end up forcing him anywhere again. And actually, as this horse was here and the horse was eating the hay, that actually helped him to start eating the hay himself. I wouldn't say that he completely relaxed, but I was sort of waiting for some moments of relaxation. There was one moment where him and the other horse touched noses and he did a little, like, it wasn't a big one. And in an ideal world, I'd have liked to have more time to stay longer. But it's nearly 9 o'clock already and I really need to go home, have some dinner and do all that stuff. I've done another 12-hour shift today. Feeling surprisingly energetic, actually, considering. But and I've not had any coffee today either. But hey, happy days. But I didn't have time to wait for Lawrence for any bigger change, which was disappointing. But I saw this small change, relaxation. I took the halter off, and actually immediately that I took the halter off, him and his other horse came together to start grooming each other, and I thought that's a really nice place to leave it, because he's coming into this supportive thing where he's then going to feel better, and he's going to kind of associate this thing that made him feel better with the end of that haltering, which is good. So yeah, and as I walked away, they didn't actually really groom each other for very long. He then moved away and pushed one of the other horses off the hay, but it felt good. It felt like a good moment. Definitely, I think there's more work to be done on him feeling comfortable, having the halter on and being okay doing whatever he wants. I think it's important that I don't play with that every day in a direct line kind of way, that I intersperse it with sessions where I don't put the halter on, I don't talk about haltering, I talk about other things instead. But for today, I was really happy with the session. I was walking back with my wheelbarrow and my halter. I'm looking at Mia across the field and I'm thinking, I don't know if I have time to bring her all the way up to have the whole conversation like I had with her the day previously about haltering, and I have to wait and I have to be in flow and then I have to get a good feeling and then I've got to come up and that's like 15 minutes already, and then I've got a hose. And so I thought to myself, okay, maybe I just have like a cheat day. I just call her up knowing that she'll come from having called her the day before, like 2 days ago. And I just give them both a little bit of hay, because it's her and her friend in the field. I just give them both like a little bit of hay, like half a hay net each. And I just hose her there with the hay, because I think if I give her hay there, I'll be able to hose her in the field without even having to hold her or anything. So I called her and up she came. And I got the hay and I put the hay out in these two little piles and I got the hose and I was able to hose her straight away for about 10 or 15 minutes. Perfect. Just perfect. Oh, and actually it was really interesting because while I was hosing her, I was following this same pattern of I have the hose on her leg when she's eating. And then whenever she makes a focus change to the environment, to me, to the other horses, to herself, anything, I take the hose off, and the hose stays off until she starts eating again, and then I put the hose back on. And and it was working really well, and I do feel like she was doing more focus changes than she has been during this process, during the hosing. She's like starting to learn that she can train me to take the hose away if she just starts changing her focus. And I thought to myself, I was like, this is really interesting, because what's happening there is when she's eating, I'm creating a small amount of discomfort. And then I'm taking away that small amount of discomfort when she stops eating. So things are getting better when she stops eating. And I think that's a really powerful way to train her, sort of from her own choice, to start feeling better without the food, to stop relying on the food so much. Because if the food becomes less comfortable, because difficult things happen when the food is there, and life is easier when the food isn't there, then she's going to start to look for comfort in other places. And so I started to think while I was hosing her, what other things I could do that would be vaguely uncomfortable that would influence this in a way that means I'm not just doing this with the hosing. I have a few ideas. Definitely, obviously, I've played with, literally pressure to move her. I've played with jumping up and down next to her. I'm thinking about things like in Pirelli, we would refer to it as friendly game. I think other people might refer to it as desensitization, maybe. I think the idea in the Pirelli friendly game is slightly different than just pure desensitization. But what I'm talking about here is scary objects. Plastic bags, umbrellas, tarpaulins, things that make weird noises and weird sounds and they look weird. And I think that maybe it might be good to start trying some of those things, start building maybe what I would have considered a few years ago to be friendly game into my work with Mia. Because I think that it's all very well me wanting to work with yields, but actually the yields are not influencing enough curiosity. She's not got enough innate curiosity around me to want to do those yields. Whereas if I can help her to feel better about things that exist in her everyday life that are scary, that might be a good way to get her to feel more curious about me and have a better association. And then that might open the door to her being more open to working with me around other things like yielding. So we'll see. I'm going to give it some more thought, come back tomorrow and see what else we can do with it. So it's all good. It's been a good day.